This story is called "My Parents Left Me Out of Their Wedding and Only Wanted Me There to Babysit." I refused to attend and insisted on showing everyone their true nature. Hi, Reddit. I'm Tessa, 19, and honestly, I've always felt like the odd one in my family, the kind of person who's there but doesn't really matter. My parents, who I'll refer to as Mom and Dad, are obsessed with creating the image of the perfect family. They're the type who send out holiday cards with professionally taken photos and a little bragging letter about how Vanessa got a promotion at work or Brendan is heading to grad school. I used to think this was normal, but now I understand they're just fixated on how others perceive them. I have two older siblings, Vanessa, 26, and Brendan, 23. Vanessa is pretty much a mirror image of my mom, stylish, outgoing, and knows how to be the center of attention. Mom calls her the family's pride, almost like she's some kind of trophy. Brendan is the golden boy, athletic, intelligent, and dating Clara, 22, who my parents treat like their second daughter. As for me, I'm the youngest, and unlike my siblings, I'm quieter and more independent. I guess I'm the odd one out, but I never thought that made me unimportant. So, the story starts when my parents announced they were finally getting married. They'd been together for 27 years, and I honestly thought they would just remain partners forever. But no, they decided they needed a big fancy wedding, not because they were in love, but because they wanted to show off. The wedding was set to take place in Aspen, at a ridiculously expensive resort. Vanessa was named maid of honor, and Brendan was a groomsman. Mom was thrilled, talking about how perfect everything was going to be. I remember sitting at the kitchen table as they discussed the plans, waiting for someone to mention my role, but no one did. At first, I thought they were just distracted with the details and would include me eventually. But as the weeks passed, it became obvious I wasn't part of their vision. The first sign something was off was when Mom asked me to watch Vanessa's kids while they went dress shopping. At first, I didn't think much of it. Vanessa's kids are toddlers and they can't sit quietly in a bridal shop, so I stayed home. Later that night, I saw Vanessa's Instagram story. It was a picture of her, Mom, and Clara posing in front of a mirror at a beautiful boutique with the caption, "Three beauties, picking out the perfect gown." Apparently, I wasn't considered one of the beauties. When I asked Mom why I wasn't invited, she replied, "Tessa, you don't even like dresses. You just get bored." Okay, I might not love dresses, but I still would have liked to be included. The worst part was how casually they ignored me. One evening at dinner, they were discussing the wedding playlist, and when I tried to suggest a song, Mom interrupted me with, "Tessa, this isn't really your thing. Let the adults handle it." Let the adults handle it? I'm 19. It wasn't just about being excluded from the planning. It was also the little things, like how they spent so much time discussing Vanessa's kids' outfits, or how Mom asked Clara for input on the flower arrangements while I was sitting right there. It felt like I was invisible unless they needed something from me. One evening, Brendan and Clara came over for dinner. Mom went on and on about how perfect Clara was and how she couldn't wait to officially consider her family. She even joked, "Clara, you're practically like a second daughter to me." I was sitting right there eating my spaghetti thinking, cool, I guess I'm the third daughter no one wanted. Then came the seating chart drama. I overheard Mom and Vanessa arguing over where people should sit. Vanessa said something like, "Well, Tessa can sit at the kids' table if we run out of space." Mom didn't argue. She just said, I'll think about it." At that point, I realized I wasn't part of their family's picture. To them, I was just an extra body they didn't know what to do with. But the final straw came when Clara called me the babysitter in front of everyone. It happened during a casual dinner at home. Vanessa was stressing about who would watch her kids during the wedding, and Clara, in her sweet little voice, said, "Oh, Tessa can handle it. She's such an excellent babysitter that nobody corrected her, not even Mom or Dad." Then came the travel arrangements, and that's when it really hit me how much of an afterthought I was to them. One evening, while sitting in the living room, I overheard Mom on the phone enthusiastically sharing with someone about the first-class tickets they'd booked for the entire family. And of course, Clara's flying with us. We couldn't leave her out, she said. I didn't even hear my name mentioned. At first, I thought maybe it was meant to be a surprise, but the more I considered it, the less likely that seemed. They didn't do surprises for me. If I wasn't mentioned, it probably meant I hadn't been included. The day before the flight, Mom barged into my room with her usual "you're slacking" tone that she loved. "Tessa, why haven't you started packing? We leave early tomorrow morning," she demanded. I blinked at her. Packing for what? She gave me this exasperated look, as if I were the one being ridiculous. The wedding, obviously. That's when I finally asked the big question that had been gnawing at me for weeks. Did you even buy me a ticket? Her expression froze for a fraction of a second before she recovered with the fakest, most dismissive laugh I'd ever heard. "Oh, well, you don't need first class like everyone else. We'll get you a ticket tomorrow. Plenty of economy seats left." I just stared at her. Everyone else had first-class tickets booked weeks ago, but for me, they planned to grab something last minute. "Are you serious?" I asked, still in disbelief. She brushed me off. "Tessa, don't make this a big deal. It's about being with the family, not where you sit on the plane." Easy for her to say, lounging in first class. Then Dad chimed in from the hallway, clearly overhearing us. "Just pack something simple from your closet. You don't need anything fancy since you're not in the wedding party." Not in the wedding party. I was their daughter, and they hadn't even given me a small role, like handing out programs or lighting candles. Clara, who wasn't even married to Brendan yet, was getting a custom dress and a front-row seat. Meanwhile, I couldn't even get a proper plane ticket like everyone else. "What am I even supposed to do at the wedding?" I asked. "Sit in the corner and clap?" Mom rolled her eyes like I was being unreasonable. "Tessa, stop being so dramatic. This is about the family, not you. You're there to support everyone and, help out." "Help out?" I asked, already sensing where this was headed. "Well," she began, hesitating slightly, "Vanessa could really use help with the kids during the ceremony. You know how restless they get." And there it was, the real reason they wanted me there. Not because I was family, but because I was useful. I wasn't a guest. I was free childcare. I laughed, but it wasn't because it was funny. "So you didn't buy me a ticket? You don't care if I have anything to wear, and you want me to come just so I can babysit?" Mom gave me that look she'd perfected over the years, the one that said I was being unreasonable. "Tessa, you're great with the kids. Who else is going to watch them?" "Maybe their parents," I shot back. She sighed as though I were the difficult one. "Look, we don't have time for this. You're coming. Pack your things." "No, I'm not," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "Don't be ridiculous. You're part of this family." "Am I?" I asked. "Because it doesn't feel like it." That's when Dad chimed in again. "Tessa, this isn't the time for one of your moods. You're coming to the wedding. End of discussion." "Moods," I said, my voice rising. "I'm not throwing a mood, Dad. I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter. You didn't even think about me enough to book a ticket, and now you're telling me I'm only going because no one else will babysit Vanessa's kids." Mom crossed her arms. "Tessa, we've all worked really hard to make this day special. You're being selfish." "Selfish?" They were calling me selfish. "Fine," I said, grabbing my phone. "You don't need to worry about me. I'm not going." Mom opened her mouth like she was about to argue, but then just sighed and walked out. "Suit yourself, but don't come crying to us later when you regret it." That was the moment I realized I wasn't just being overlooked. I wasn't even seen as part of the family. The next morning, the house was eerily quiet. Normally, I'd hear Mom yelling at Dad to hurry up, or Vanessa running around trying to find one of her kids' shoes. I suppose this time was different. Everyone must have left incredibly early because by the time I woke up, the house was completely deserted. Nobody bothered to knock on my door to say goodbye. No text from Mom, no, "Are you sure you're not coming?" from Dad, not even a "We'll miss you" from Vanessa or Brendan. It felt as though I vanished from their world the moment I said I wasn't going. By the afternoon, I decided to distract myself. I was in the middle of binge-watching some random series when my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Mom had posted a picture. It showed everyone dressed in coordinated outfits, standing in front of the Aspen Resort. The caption read, "The whole family together for this magical day. Family first. Wedding weekend." I just stared at it, caught between anger and disbelief. The whole family? Really? Pretty sure that phrase includes me, Mom. Meanwhile, I was sitting around in sweats, eating leftover pizza and apparently erased from existence in their narrative. Then the comments began appearing. "Where's Tessa? Is Tessa okay? I don't see her in the picture. Why isn't she there with you all?" I kept scrolling, curious about how Mom would handle this. And unsurprisingly, she delivered. Mom responded to one comment with, "Unfortunately, Tessa wasn't feeling well and couldn't travel. She's with us in spirit." With them in spirit? Seriously. But it didn't stop there. Dad chimed in too, replying to another comment. "Family first, always, even when we're apart. Tessa needed to rest, but she's cheering us on from home." Cheering them on? The only thing I was rooting for was their Wi-Fi to crash, so they'd stop posting this nonsense. My frustration turned into fury. Not only did they leave me behind, but they also turned me into some convenient excuse. Instead of admitting they'd ignored me, they painted me as the sickly daughter who couldn't come, just to preserve their perfect image. For a few minutes, I debated my next move. Part of me wanted to let it slide. This wasn't shocking behavior at this point, but another part of me wanted the truth to come out. I wasn't sick or resting. I was forgotten. So I grabbed my phone, snapped a selfie, and captioned it. "Not sick, just forgotten. Guess I'm not part of the family first vision." I tagged Mom, Dad, Vanessa, Brendan, and even Clara for good measure. Within minutes of posting, my phone was blowing up. Supportive comments came pouring in. "Wait, what? They didn't take you? OMG, that's awful, Tessa. You deserve better." But then came the backlash. Vanessa was the first to comment. "Seriously, Tessa, you're airing family stuff on social media? Grow up." I ignored her. If she couldn't handle the truth, that was her problem. Next was Brendan, playing the peacemaker as usual. "Tessa, I thought you didn't want to come. Why are you doing this?" "Doing what, Brendan? Telling people what really happened. How terrible of me." Clara didn't comment, but I noticed she liked Vanessa's response. Of course she did. Then things escalated. Extended family members and family friends began weighing in. People who'd seen Mom's post were now seeing mine, and they weren't happy. Aunt Liz, who's never been a fan of Mom's flawless facade, wrote, "So you left your daughter behind and lied about it?" Wow. Some family first. A family friend added, "Tessa, I'm so sorry. I can't believe they treated you this way." That's when the calls started. First Mom. I let it ring. Then Dad. Ignored that too. Finally, Vanessa texted, "Pick up. Mom's losing it." Good. Let her. When I finally checked my messages, there was a voice note from Mom. Her tone was sharp, the kind she uses when she's barely holding it together but furious underneath. "Tessa, what do you think you're doing? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for us? We didn't leave you out. You chose not to come. Now you're making us look like bad parents. This is petty and childish. Take the post down." I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot of the voice note, blurred out the audio, and posted it on my Instagram story with the caption, "Funny how telling the truth makes people uncomfortable. Guess I hit a nerve." Later that night, my cousin Elise, 21F, who was at the wedding, messaged me. She'd seen the chaos unfolding online and wrote, "Tessa, this is wild. I'm so sorry they treated you like this. Do you want me to help?" I wasn't sure what she meant by help, so I asked. Her response? "Let's just say I could make things interesting. Here's the completely restructured and paraphrased version of your text." Whoa. That day I grinned and replied, "Go for it." With those words, the groundwork for my revenge was laid. After my cousin Elise sent her message, I felt both intrigued and a bit uneasy. She had always been the unpredictable one in our family, and when she said she could stir things up, it usually meant trouble. But at that moment, trouble seemed appealing. Elise didn't share many specifics, only that she had access to the reception's slideshow. Now, this wasn't just any basic PowerPoint. It was a high-quality wedding slideshow that Mom had meticulously overseen for weeks. She had combed through years of family photos, selecting only the ones that painted us like the perfect Hallmark family. It was her pride and joy, and she couldn't stop raving about how it would leave everyone in tears. The kicker? Elise had the final say on what would actually be shown. The next morning, Elise texted me, "I have an idea, but I need you to trust me." Honestly, by then, I didn't care what her plan was. I just wanted someone to hold my family accountable, and if Elise was up for the task, I was fully on board. "Do it," I wrote back. The reception took place in an over-the-top, elegant ballroom, with chandeliers that probably cost more than my tuition. Everyone was dressed to perfection, and according to Elise, the vibe was peak smug. Mom was glowing, Dad was basking in compliments, and Vanessa and Brendan were playing their roles as the ideal siblings. Even Clara was apparently stealing the spotlight. Elise sent me a selfie from the bathroom with the caption, "Clara's acting like the bride, and your mom is loving it." When it came time for the slideshow, Elise texted, "Here we go. Hope you're watching." I wasn't physically there, but I could feel the tension through my phone. Elise described the scene perfectly. The lights dimmed, the room quieted, and the first slide appeared with the title, "Family First, a Celebration of Love." The slideshow began harmlessly enough with pictures of Mom and Dad in their younger days, vacations, anniversaries, all the usual highlights. Then came childhood photos of Vanessa and Brendan, first days of school, birthdays, and family outings. Unsurprisingly, I was nearly absent. Elise mentioned that there were maybe one or two baby photos of me, but nothing after that. It was like I had vanished from the family's story once Vanessa and Brendan reached their teen years. As the slideshow moved to recent pictures, there were countless images of Vanessa's kids, Brendan and Clara at fancy dinners, and the whole family, minus me, at various events. Elise noted how glaringly obvious my exclusion was, and she could see guests whispering about it. Finally, the slideshow arrived at what was supposed to be the last slide, which Mom had planned to say, "Forever grateful for family," alongside a group photo from a trip to the Hamptons. Instead, Elise had replaced it with a blank screen that read, "Some family members couldn't make it." Or were they forgotten? According to Elise, the room fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Vanessa was the first to react, gasping audibly before muttering, "What the hell is this?" and storming out. Brendan, seated next to Clara, looked like he wanted to disappear, but Mom's reaction was the best. Guests began murmuring as people grabbed their phones, likely scrolling Instagram to figure out what was going on. Trying to salvage the situation, Mom stood and said, "Oh, that must have been a mistake. Let's give a round of applause for the beautiful memories." Nobody clapped. Elise texted me immediately after, Mission accomplished. Your mom is losing it. Apparently, a few family friends had already started asking questions. Aunt Janice went straight to Mom, demanding, "What did that slide mean? Where's Tessa? Why wasn't she included?" Mom, trying to keep her composure, recycled the excuse she'd been using all weekend. Oh, Tessa wasn't feeling well and didn't want to risk making anyone sick. But here's the thing. By then, most of the guests had already seen my Instagram post. Elise had made sure of it, showing it to a few cousins before the slideshow, and it spread quickly. One cousin even pulled up my post and showed Aunt Janice, loudly remarking, "She doesn't look sick to me." That's when everything started unraveling. Guests openly questioned Mom and Dad, asking why I wasn't there and why they'd lied about it. Some even brought up how heartbreaking it was to see me excluded from the slideshow. Mom tried to downplay it, but the damage was done. Meanwhile, Elise kept feeding me updates. "Your mom's cornered by Aunt Janice and Uncle Mike. It's brutal. Vanessa's crying in the bathroom. Here's the rewritten text adhering to your guidelines." She's furious that people are focusing on you instead of her, or Clara just asked Brendan if they should leave early. LOL. I was at home, munching on popcorn and soaking up every juicy detail. For once, the family that had ignored me for years was being forced to address it. By the end of the night, Mom was visibly shaken. She made a weak attempt at a speech about how family means everything and how much she missed everyone being together. But no one believed her. When the reception finally wrapped up, Elise sent me one last message. "Your mom just left crying, and your dad looked ready to explode. Best wedding ever." I couldn't stop laughing. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a voice, even if it came through Elise's perfectly orchestrated chaos. The morning after the wedding, I woke up to a flood of notifications, texts, Instagram DMs, Facebook messages. My phone was blowing up so much I couldn't open a single app without seeing mentions of the slideshow or the drama it caused. The first message I read was from Elise. "Tessa, they're furious. Your mom's trying to pass it off as a glitch, but no one's buying it. You're the talk of the town. Congrats." I laughed because, honestly, I wasn't shocked they'd try to call it a technical error. Mom was always obsessed with controlling the story, even when the truth was painfully clear. But the damage was done. After reading her message, I started scrolling through my notifications. My Instagram post had gained even more traction overnight. Friends, cousins, and even some family friends had commented or shared it, with some directly tagging Mom and Dad. One cousin wrote, "Tessa, this is so awful. I had no idea they treated you like that. You deserve better." Another added, "Family first? More like family selective." The hashtag number sign family first. Except Tessa started gaining momentum, and I couldn't help but laugh every time I saw it. Then the texts from family started rolling in. Vanessa was the first to reach out. "Tessa, I can't believe you'd stoop this low. Mom and Dad worked so hard on this wedding, and you had to ruin it with your drama. Grow up." I rolled my eyes so hard I swear I saw my brain. Vanessa playing the victim was nothing new, but the nerve to call me dramatic after treating me like a built-in babysitter for years. Yeah, no thanks. I left her on red. Then there was Mom. She called twice, but I ignored it. After that, she left a voicemail, dripping with passive aggression. "Tessa, it's your mother. I can't believe what you've done. We tried to make this wedding special for everyone, and you've turned it into a circus. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for us? I thought you were more mature than this. Call me back. We need to talk." "No thanks, Mom." Throughout the day, I started hearing from other relatives, most of whom surprisingly took my side. Even a few family friends messaged me. One of Mom's longtime friends, Diane, sent me a screenshot of a group chat where people were ripping into my parents for leaving me out. One person said, "I can't believe they treated their own daughter like this. Tessa's better off without them." Another wrote, Makes you wonder what else they've covered up over the years. This isn't normal. Diane captioned it with, "Just so you know, people see the truth. Stay strong, sweetheart." It felt validating to realize I wasn't crazy or overreacting. People were finally seeing what I'd endured for years. By the afternoon, things escalated. Through the family grapevine, I learned Mom and Dad were fielding some tough questions. A few of their close friends had asked why I wasn't at the wedding, but Mom stuck to her story that I was too sick to travel. Of course, no one believed her. Elise later told me Mom and Dad left Aspen early, cutting their honeymoon short because they couldn't handle the backlash. One of my younger cousins, Jake, messaged me, "Tessa, I always thought you stayed quiet because you didn't care about family stuff, but now I see they never gave you a fair chance." I'm sorry. That meant a lot. For years, I'd wondered if the problem was me, if I hadn't tried hard enough to fit in. But now I understood it wasn't me, it was them. By the evening, Mom finally broke down and sent me a text. "Tessa, this has gone too far. I know you're upset, but dragging this out on social media isn't helping anyone. Let's talk and figure out a way forward." I didn't respond. Instead, I posted a follow-up on Instagram. The truth hurts, I guess. For years, I've been ignored, excluded, and treated like an afterthought. This wedding wasn't an isolated event. It was the final straw. I deserve more, and I'm done pretending otherwise. To everyone who reached out, thank you for your encouragement. It means the world to me. The outpouring of support was incredible. People I hadn't spoken to in years contacted me, saying they were proud of me for standing up for myself. Even some of Vanessa's friends left comments like, "Good for you, Tessa. You deserve better." By the end of the night, I felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time, I wasn't quietly tolerating their behavior. I was calling it out, and people were paying attention. My parents could try to twist the story however they wanted, but the truth was out there now, and honestly, that felt better than any apology they could have given. I didn't think things could get more complicated after the wedding fallout, but I underestimated Uncle Ben. He's my mom's older brother, known for being brutally honest and uninterested in keeping the peace, one of the reasons he and my mom don't get along. He's also one of the few family members who has always treated me like an actual person, not just the quiet one. So, when Ben called me 2 days after the wedding, I wasn't surprised. "Tessa, I just saw your Instagram post," he said sharply. "I just got off the phone with your mom. What on earth is going on over there?" I explained everything, and Ben stayed silent, letting me get it all out. When I finished, there was a long pause before he said, "That's it. I'm coming over." "Uncle Ben, you don't have to." "I'm coming over," he repeated firmly, leaving no room for argument. They need to hear this from me. A few hours later, Ben arrived at the house. He didn't knock or announce himself. He just walked right in like he owned the place. I was in the living room when he strode in, looked at me, and said, "Pack a bag." "What?" I asked, confused. "You're not staying here another second," he replied. "Pack what you need. I'll deal with your parents." Before I could respond, my parents came into the room. Mom looked startled to see Ben, but Dad just seemed irritated. "Ben," Mom said, her voice tense, "what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" Ben snapped. "What are you doing? Leaving your daughter behind and lying about it? Have you lost your minds?" Mom's face turned red. "Ben, this isn't your business." "Oh, it's my business," he shot back. "When my niece is treated like an afterthought by her own parents, it becomes my business." Dad stepped in defensively. "Look, Ben, you don't know the full story. Tessa didn't want to come." "Don't even try that," Ben interrupted, his voice rising. "She didn't want to come because you made her feel unwelcome. You excluded her from the planning and didn't even bother to book her a ticket. Now you're blaming her. Are you kidding me?" Mom tried to interject again, but Ben wasn't letting up. "Do you have any idea how humiliating it is to see my sister, my own family, called out for neglecting her child?" You've spent years pretending to be the perfect family, and now everyone knows it's a lie. At this point, Mom started crying, full-on sobbing, not just a few tears. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. "We didn't mean for this to happen," she said between sobs. "We just wanted the wedding to be perfect." Ben snorted. "Perfect for who?" "Certainly not for Tessa. You've been so focused on your precious image that you didn't even notice you were pushing her out." Dad, looking increasingly uncomfortable, muttered, "This isn't helping, Ben." "No, Gerald," Ben said coldly. "What isn't helping is you pretending everything is fine. You messed up, and instead of taking responsibility, you're doubling down. That's pathetic." While they argued, I went upstairs to pack a bag, as Ben had told me. I wasn't sure if I was actually leaving, but the thought of getting out of that house, even for a little while, was tempting. As I threw clothes into a duffel bag, I could hear the shouting downstairs, Mom's voice shrill and shaky, Dad trying unsuccessfully to sound composed, and Ben cutting through their excuses like a knife. When I came back down, the room was silent. Mom was still crying, and Dad looked like he'd aged a decade. Ben, on the other hand, seemed completely unfazed. "Ready?" he asked, nodding toward the door. I hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" He placed a hand on my shoulder. "Tessa, you don't have to stay somewhere you're not appreciated. Let's go." As we walked to his car, Mom ran after us. "Tessa, wait," she called, her voice desperate. "Please don't do this. We'll fix it. We'll make it right. Just take down your posts and stories, and we'll talk through this." I turned to her, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're only sorry because people found out. If no one had called you out, you wouldn't care." "That's not true," she insisted, tears streaming down her face. "Here's the rewritten version of the text, adhering to your specifications. We love you, Tessa. We've been dealing with a lot lately." I shook my head firmly. "That's not an excuse." She reached out for my arm, but Ben stepped in between us. "Step back, Marcia," he said firmly. "You've done enough." The drive to Ben's house was initially quiet. I think he could tell I needed time to sort through everything. Eventually, he spoke up. "You know, Tessa, you don't have to go back there if you don't want to." "I'm not sure," I admitted. "It's not like I have any kind of plan." He nodded in understanding. "That's okay. You've got time to figure it out. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you." Hearing those words meant more than I could express. For the first time in what felt like ages, maybe even weeks, I felt like someone was truly on my side. Over the following days, I began feeling like myself again. Ben and Anna didn't pressure me to discuss what had happened, but made it clear that I wasn't alone. By the end of that week, I realized one thing without a doubt. I wasn't going back to that house unless something drastically changed. Staying at Uncle Ben and Aunt Anna's house was like finally getting a breath of fresh air after years of struggling to stay afloat. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't constantly tense or waiting for someone to guilt-trip me. They didn't make me feel like a burden or an afterthought. They simply allowed me to exist without all the unnecessary drama. Meanwhile, back at my parents' house, things were falling apart. Elise kept me updated on the aftermath of the wedding, and honestly, it sounded like chaos. Apparently, Mom attempted to hold a family meeting to address the situation and get everyone on the same page. Elise told me that Vanessa was livid because the whole wedding had been overshadowed by the slideshow fiasco. Brendan, as usual, tried to smooth things over, but even Clara had enough of it. "She's upset that people are saying you should have been there," Elise texted me. "She thinks it's taking the attention away from her moment." Of course, Vanessa turned it into something about herself. Classic. Mom and Dad wasted no time trying to pull me back into their orbit. They left a string of voicemails, each one sounding more desperate than the last. "Tessa, we just want to talk. Please call us back. We need to fix this as a family." "You're being unfair. This isn't like you, Tessa. Please, let's sit down and work this out." I ignored every single one. Then Mom started texting. We love you, Tessa. We just didn't realize how excluded you felt. Can we talk? Followed by, we're planning something special for you, a late celebration just for you. A celebration? Really? They couldn't even include me in their actual wedding, but thought a pity party would make everything better. The cherry on top. They started telling people they planned to give me a car for my birthday as a way to make amends. I only found out because Elise overheard them on the phone with Aunt Janice. A car wasn't going to magically undo everything they'd done. The fact that they thought it might just proved how disconnected they were from reality. A few weeks later, with Ben's help, I moved out of their house and into my own place. It was the most liberating feeling ever. For the first time, I had a space that was entirely mine. Naturally, my parents weren't thrilled. Mom called me the day I moved in, pleading with me to come back. "Tessa, you don't have to do this," she said. "We're your family. You belong here." "Do I?" I asked. "Because it hasn't felt that way in a long time." She didn't have a response to that. So now here I am, in my cozy little apartment, figuring out life on my own terms. I'm still working at the bookstore and saving up for school. I've started therapy, which Uncle Ben insisted on covering, and it's helping me unpack a lot of the baggage from my childhood. As for my parents, we're not exactly on speaking terms. Mom still sends the occasional text, but I keep my replies brief. Dad hasn't reached out much, which isn't surprising. I think he's embarrassed, and honestly, he should be. It's incredible how much can change in just a few months. For so long, I felt trapped, like I'd never escape their shadow. But now I finally feel free. And the best part? They can't twist this to make themselves look good. The truth is out, and everyone knows what really happened. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me through this whole mess. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time, I'm genuinely excited to find out.